I often used to describe it as if the Munsters lived next to the Addams Family and Pee-wee's Playhouse near the ocean. Hi, I'm Adam Alcaraz, and this is my Wacky Shack house in Philadelphia. I grew up skateboarding. I was really into the ocean and fishing and spearfishing and diving. In the 80s, you would just see all these old Victorian houses that looked a lot like the Munsters' house. My whole, I think, aesthetic is a mixture of the mid-century modern and Victorian. I bought this house in 2000, and it's about 3,000 square feet. It was very inexpensive back then. The house itself was kind of scary. It was converted to a doctor's office in the 1940s. So there was all these weird rooms and weird hallways, and it wasn't lived in, I don't think, for 7 years. It smelled weird, and everything was this bologna pink color. I just lucked out. This is the only house I looked at. After I got the house, I mean, it was pretty creepy in here. And so I started tearing down the walls that were built in the 40s. And I wanted a very opulent interior because I wanted a place to shoot photos. When I bought the house, this was 2 rooms. This was a doctor's office waiting room. And there was a door, and this went into the doctor's actual office. And then there was a door that went into the examination room, which is where the kitchen is. The first thing I wanted to do when I got this place was tear these walls down and look for the pocket doors, and I found nothing. Miraculously, a week later, I found these doors at the flea market for 30 bucks. One thing I was very lucky about this house, that they kept the original fireplace, mantle, and the mirror. So I don't know anybody else on the block who has their original pieces. So I was really lucky about that. I was obsessed with the plaster moldings and all this, and this molding up here, the ceiling medallion, I got those pieces in Brighton, England. Just a couple pieces, and I brought them back and made molds. I got a cornbread tag. He's known as the originator of modern day graffiti. Super random people you would never think know. They're like, "Do you have a cornbread tag?" Because he was very famous in the 70s. I've always felt like I was an artist. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and that's just what we did. We just drew and painted and made stuff. I knew I wanted to go to art school, but I really felt art school was a big waste of money, so I didn't even want to admit that to my father. My dad was in the military, so I joined the Navy. I was a Navy Seabee, which is like construction battalions of the Navy. I went to the local community college, Delaware County Community College, and I basically took all the art classes. So I had a great education there. So I was doing that, and then I was also working at a 1-hour photo lab and getting really, really into skateboarding and photography. This is my kitchen. When I was working on it, I didn't really have any plan. Everything was basically primered white before I realized which direction I was going to go. And I had these circus-themed mid-century modern glasses, and I was like, oh, I'll do like a circus-themed sort of thing maybe. So I started painting stripes and just using pastel fun colors. There was a bathroom in the kitchen because this used to be an examination room. And then the inside of this is a collection of masks. And then over the years, all different artists, musicians who visited have signed the inside of this door. This is a bat lamp I made with my friend PJ Linden. I mean, I have some taxidermy in the house, but I kind of prefer fake taxidermy. This is from Bambi Cleaners, which is a Philadelphia landmark. And these were thrown in the trash. The handles for the drawers. I got these 3 in Paris flea market in their casket handles. I often think of the house as a sketchbook, whereas I'm learning. I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of neat things, but I don't want to feel, I want the attachment to be what I learned from it. And because so much of it is about the journey of learning where to find things and the resources. So, because when I first got this place, I didn't have any money. So I had to basically do everything on my own, which was great because that's how I started learning. I had friends help, but I did almost everything by myself. Later now, I have great resources, mainly skateboarders who are extremely skilled in everything. Woodworking and concrete. Those are the guys who rebuilt my backyard, rebuilt built a greenhouse. This was originally a dining room when I bought the house, but there was a doorway over here in this creepy hallway that went around the examination room, which this was for the doctor, and this was a sealed wall. But I chopped out everything and rebuilt everything and made this room, which ended up being what changed my career from photography to making novelty chandeliers. I wanted to do like a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne style, but also Ernst Haeckel. That was a big inspiration to me, was Ernst Haeckel's book, Art Forms in Nature, elements of sea life and whatnot, and nature and ornamental design. I was like, that's what I want. And so I started sculpting octopus arms, and it took a long time because I didn't know how to sculpt very well. But I did 2 arms that I sculpted, and then I made molds of those, and then I started casting them out of plaster. These are the very first pieces that I made with the chandeliers. And so I started making them for this room that I'm sitting in right now. And that was around 2001. And after I finished them, they were so much fun to make that I just didn't stop. So this is called the Jules Verne room, octopus room. But this is my first real experiment in playing around with ornamental plaster techniques. And it was very simple, just finding, well, this is a piece of picture framing that my friend had. I got a couple pieces of that, made some rubber molds of those, and it was just a matter of gluing and sticking them to the wall, and just kept going with it. The crown molding, that was something I was really obsessed with. I don't know, I was very ambitious back then. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. That's what I would basically do every night, just work on this room. But it came out just right. I like it a lot. Then even the mirrors, I didn't have enough money to buy a full-length mirror. I would just go to thrift shops and buy whatever mirrors I could find and then cut them. So there's all these seams, but it kind of looks more authentic. I wasn't afraid. I just kind of went for it without really hesitating. And it's the imperfections that kind of bring out the grace, actually, and the uniqueness and the fun of it. I think modern stuff is actually a lot more difficult because you have to be perfect. This, you could be really sloppy. So that was very encouraging. These portholes are one of the reasons that I bought the house, because when I called the realtor, he said, oh, it has a sort of classic interior, but the basement looks like a ship. And I was like, I think that's my house. Now let me show you the backyard now. This is my tiny South Philly backyard. The realtor didn't even let me look out the back. He said he lost the key. And I didn't care because I wanted this place so bad that when I finally did get the house and went out in the back, I saw why he didn't want me to see it, because the old built-on kitchen was all rotted out. And the thing about having a small backyard, I always wanted things to be like go vertical. The skateboarders from FDR Skate Park made these forms with the metal from the old vert ramp that was down there. So these will all be covered in mosaics, just like everything else, by Jody Rice. When you come out here, you don't know you're in the city. Then this is my bedroom here. This was a gas chandelier, but it was converted to electric. This was made in Philadelphia, and it has Philadelphia on the keys. These are the types of things I like to have as part of Philadelphia history. And this is a Gothic, I think Masonic bishop's chair. And then this is one of the bat lamps I made. And these curtains are this beautiful burnt velvet, which I got from the Kevin O'Brien studio, which is literally like 5 blocks up the street. I like how I live on one of the busiest streets in the city, but with the plants and the tree, you don't even know it. So this is the Trumbauer room. Originally this room was a music room when I bought the house. I made this my photo studio. I took a lot of this stuff out. I always had plans to do something completely over the top with this room. I got a phone call from my friend Bob Beatty, who has a salvage company. And he said, I want you to see this mansion. He's like, I'm doing a demo on it. I'm like, awesome. The mansion was designed by Horace Trumbauer. Trumbauer was one of the main architects of the Gilded Age. And so this came from a Beaux Arts mansion. And I was able to get one of the rooms and buy the wood out of it. More skateboarders, they meticulously rebuilt it into this room. This room is beyond anything I could ever imagine having when I first bought this house. But my favorite is looking this direction into the greenhouse. So this is the greenhouse, and it's one of my favorite places in the house because it really makes the winter go by fast. When I first got the house, this was just a bay window. 2010 is when I had a deck built outside of it, and I had these French doors put in. I never really used the porch because it was just too miserable out here in the summer. I hired an architect, and we did it properly, and it came out really nice. I made all these pieces all around flat. I laid the pieces into mastic, tile adhesive, and then I resined everything over. So it's completely waterproof, so I could spray this room down. This is one of my favorite things. This is a reproduction Fisk Victorian aquarium. I got 4 little black angelfish, not realizing how goth that actually was. So this is my 3rd floor hallway going to my studio. This piece here actually is pretty remarkable. I got this in a Puck and Puck auction, and when I went to go pick it up, it was on the wall, and I didn't know until I got it that it did this. So I was just like, oh my God. So I paid for it, and I ran home with it. I stole it because I just couldn't believe how cool the thing was. This is called the Goo Goo Muck, and I made this for my friend Jimmy Webb for his store in New York City called I Need More, which was a punk rock boutique. And I got this back after he passed away a few years ago. I designed these skateboard decks in 1999 for Toy Machine skateboards. And it was my friend Bam Margera was on it at the time, and Mike Maldonado and Carrie Getz. I'm not super into Halloween. I just kind of like weird looking stuff. But this is part of a Halloween thing I had out front. So I don't, I mean, it looks like I'm all into Halloween, but I like this stuff because it's funny looking. The very first night I stayed here, I was by myself. And that was weird because I guess I had sleep paralysis, and I heard the door open downstairs with there was a Venetian, like a metal Venetian blind on it, and I heard it. And the window was open, and I heard something jump in the window and jump on my chest. And I just laid there thinking, like no, I was dreaming this. And there's nothing here. And this house has always been very peaceful. If there are spirits here, they like me. So this is my studio. This room was originally the first bedroom I had. When I bought the place, I just stayed up here because the downstairs was pretty creepy. So when I moved downstairs bedroom and it did more of the house, this was my photo archive room. Once I started making the chandelier, I switched over to just making everything in here. And then 4 years ago, I realized I really had to rebuild the whole place, make it easier for making this stuff. So I took everything out, cleaned everything out, painted it all goofy, and I kind of know where things are, even though it looks a little chaotic. I surround myself with things that kind of inspire me, like the antique stuff. One of the main things about making lamps and kind of being a craftsperson is you have to have a lot of spaces and to put stuff. It's always the biggest challenge, and I have stuff all over the place. This is pretty much where everything's made and then gets shipped around the country and sometimes around the world, and it just comes from this little table. I want people to be inspired like I was inspired, in the sense that, well, I wanted things I couldn't afford or didn't exist, and I realized I can make them. That's pretty cool. But I want to encourage people to do things for themselves and make their own things because it's really fun. Have fun with what you're doing, and don't worry about screwing up or not being perfect, because that takes the fun out of it.
One day I'm not going to need a car, let me tell you. It's kind of like a little jewel box that was found in the attic of a magical old home in the 1800s, I'd say. Yeah, I'm Nikk Alcaraz, and welcome to my handmade home in Burbank, California. I'm a food artist, a DIY artist, and a content creator. I make short-form videos on TikTok and Instagram, and in the videos, it's all peculiar things that are being created, whether it's DIY or food. I'm obsessed with dark and creepy things, and so that bleeds into my art, which bleeds into my life, and so my house is a direct reflection of what I love. So I want to start with this oil painting of a landscape. This was actually just $20, but it's really the inspiration for the whole living space. These are a lot of vintage frames, and they're from the thrift store. They don't cost much, but when you put them all together, it makes it look expensive looking. It's a big impact on the space. And in this living space, it's actually a mixture of like Victorian, fairy tale, and mid-century. What attracts me to this moody Victorian style is because I see it in a lot of horror movies, and I love horror movies. I love Halloween. Ever since I was a kid, I was just always attracted to things like that. Living in a space that someone like Dorian Gray would live in is really cool. Because outside in LA, it's a big scary place already. Coming home to this little storybook safe haven is quite nice. I have this pole lamp, which is my favorite lamp. I splurged on this one, of course. But it's so cool because it's attached from the bottom to the top of the ceiling, and it doesn't take up any space at all. And I think it goes with the Victorian mid-century vibe because these cuts are very mid-century, but the lamp shapes are very Victorian. In this space, we combine Victorian with French country, with cottagecore, and also mid-century modern. And a lot of designers probably wouldn't put all those things together, but we're kind of in the business of living in a space that we love, so why not? When I moved in, this place had the renter's special, so all of the light switches were kind of painted over and the windows kind of had that thick paint and everything was boring renter's white color, and I wanted to change that as soon as possible, so I darkened everything. So you'll find more plants all the way around the area, all the way into the dining room. They're connected, the living space and the dining space are connected, but with rugs, you can make everything feel separate. So this is the dining space, and here I love to entertain with my partner and our families. So one of my favorite things is this spiderweb lamp, which is a thrift store find. It was only $8. It's just amazing. It's just chef's kiss. What made me want to move into this space was the bay window. A lot of apartments here in Los Angeles are cookie cutter, and just that little bit of architecture of the bay window, well, I really wanted to live there because of it. The proudest DIY moment that I have are my curtains. These curtains that I made, and I dyed them. There are IKEA curtain panels, and I sewed them using a vintage sewing pattern. I really wanted to bring in that Victorian feel, and this really frames this huge bay window. And I'm in love with it. I love getting up in the morning and feeling like I'm in a castle. My favorite piece in the home is this green dishware. This dishware is called jadeite, and it's actually like really rare now, but it started in the 30s. It was like during the Great Depression. It was very cheap. It was like in hospitals, and you could even find things like this in cereal boxes back then. I collect it piece by piece, but whenever I have a little extra to splurge, I love to go on eBay and buy some jadeite. So this is a quick thing that I put together, just a little peculiar tea time, I'd say. So here you would see that I put some marzipan maggots in this cake. Ladybug caprices. These are just like an Oreo truffle. You know, I love doing all kinds of different types of art. So one thing that I've done is I crocheted this doily. The pattern's called Post-Mortem, and I just thought that was really cool, and it goes well with the whole tea thing. This really embodies a lot of the work I do. It's like Halloween 365 days of the year. This table is something that we Frankenstein together. We wanted marble, so we found a table really cheap that had a stone granite marble-ish top. And then we found this really cool magical wood base. And it is attached with liquid nails, and it's not going anywhere. It hasn't moved. Here's another really cool piece that I love in this space. This is a mantle that was given to us. These corners were not here. They were all just thrashed. So with Bondo, I built them up, and I just painted all black to fit that nice Moody vibe. My partner tiled all of the inside of it. This wasn't part of the original structure. So another thing that we thrifted that really helps the space is this huge mirror. This mirror was nearly free. It was hard to transport, but once we got it here, we stuck it on the wall, and it really opens up the space. So I love the dining room space, and this just doubles that dining room space. It's a great mirror. Now I'm going to show you my apothecary cabinet. So this is where we store all of our crafts. I can't take credit for this amazing idea, but I did assist in building this. So it's basically a bunch of random drawers that we shoved inside this, what was once a coat closet, to store all of our crafts. So in here I have all my clay tools and glue and everything that I need to do what I do. But we also added this faux stained glass window up in this cubby space. So behind this we actually store our toilet paper and paper towel, but that's not pretty to look at. So with plexiglass and a decal and a light, we just pop this up there and it looks like it's always supposed to be like this. I collect rulers from antique shops or thrift shops. Wherever there's an old ruler, I love it. Rulers rule. And up here we have the ghost bell. So this is our little hallway, and we painted it all one color so it can feel like a little narrow alley. But we added this gallery wall that goes all the way up. And there are some special things on this gallery wall, and one of the most special things is this Victorian house painting. Living in your vision board is something that I think everybody should do, and this is the image of the outside that I wish this house would look like. And one day, I will definitely have that house. Here we have this Picasso painting that, it's not actually a painting at all. It was a print board that was a couple dollars at the thrift store, of course. And I took some matte medium and just brushed brush strokes on it to make it look like a painting. I did that as well with this scream painting, and it makes the paintings look almost real. I was the winner of a craft competition, and this is my grand prize trophy. I have nowhere to put it, so I just put it on the floor in the hallway, but I think it looks pretty cool there. Now on to the bedroom. This is the plaid haven. My partner and I wallpapered these walls, and everything in here has some kind of plaid pattern. We wanted this space to feel like a magical, preppy English dormitory. So as you can see, the floor is plaid, well, the carpet's plaid, the bedding's plaid, and the huge wall behind the bed is plaid. And they're all different plaids, but they all go together because the same colors are in like each of the patterns. This is our bookshelf. There's not a lot of books, maybe just on the bottom, and we turn them all backwards so that color-wise they'll cohesively go with the room. These boxes right here are actually the inspiration for the paint color in the room, and it's such an interesting color for a room, but it makes it really cozy. Paint colors don't necessarily have to come from just a swatch. You can pick something around your home and take it to the paint store, and they can actually color match it. Here I have another award. We have a little greenhouse section that we like to look at of plants and crystal balls. You will find a lot of magical things the closer you look, and one of my favorite ones are these hand tie backs for our curtains. Basically they're just wooden hands that we stained and attached them to the wall. It's a subtle touch, but like I said, the closer you look, the weirder it gets. I have this little beetle that I found at a flea market, The Witches of Salem, and the Magic Garden Fairy Tale book. What makes a home feel like home to me is having things that are passed down from generation to generation. So one of my favorite things in this room is this magical orange lamp that was given to me by my grandmother when I moved to Los Angeles. She's not with us anymore, but every time I light this candle, I feel like she's around. So I like to keep it in the room and light it during special times, especially her birthday or when I'm decorating for Halloween or any other holiday. I've always been creative since I was 6 years old. I picked up anything that I can to create, and the person that I create with is my grandma, who also loved Halloween and loved witches. So everything that I do now is kind of brought on by her influence. I would begin with like box cake mixes, and I would just throw things in them to make the cake a lot better than it was. And then after I moved to LA, I got a job at this content creation place, but it wasn't creating content that I like. During the pandemic, I realized that it was time for me to move on, and I started Practical Peculiarities, which is my DIY and food page. So one of my favorite spaces is this kitchen area. I do all of my videos here on TikTok and Instagram. But yeah, in this space, I really get into my muse. I have an obsession with copper, as you can see, but sometimes I have to contain myself. There's even some store here that I have absolutely nowhere to put, but it's copper and I love it. This is a vintage pastry table. I can just feel all the years of baking on this thing every time I'm prepping something, and that's what I love about it. I love all of my kitchen tools. I try to make sure that they're all vintage because I find that vintage things hold up a lot longer. Look at that. Sturdy. It's not going anywhere. It's not gonna break. So most of the house so far has been dark and moody, but there is one place in this whole house that is quite the opposite. My favorite spot in the house is my kitchen area. I spend a lot of time in there because I'm a peculiar baker. It's such a dramatic difference, but I live for the drama. I love it. This countertop was one of those very ugly marble ones, and I just hated it. So my partner and I got this textured contact paper, and we put it on just to make it feel wood-like, very cottagey. A reoccurring theme in this place is the closer you look, the weirder it gets. So if you look closer into the plants, you'll find things like little eyeballs. Even in the fruit bowl, you'll find little eyeballs. And that's just like a thing that I like to put around the house just to remember that it's creepy 365 days of the year. And that's okay. We love it. Part of my background is in theater, and I used to do a lot of set design. I included that into my space by finding budget-friendly tips that are also temporary, since this is a rental. This floor is a pill and stick floor, but it's not on the tile directly. We laid down a brown piece of paper and we taped the seams with painter's tape, and then we put the pill and stick. That way, if we ever move out, we could just pill up the whole floor and nothing's damaged. But right now, it just looks like it's built in, which is great. Another thing you can do is add fixtures. So we replace the fixtures, also the light fixtures. It never hurts to ask your landlord to make some changes in the rental space. Usually they say that you can just paint it back when you move out. Usually they're a lot more lenient than you'd think. If you're making improvements to the apartments, they're usually on board with that. So this fridge did not come with the place. A fridge did come with the place, but that fridge broke. And when that fridge broke, I called the landlord and asked if I could pick the fridge. And this is the fridge that I got to pick out. So if you ask and put on your puppy dog face, anything's possible. When people walk in, I'd like them to feel like they've walked into another world, like a fantasy world, like an enchanted forest, or, like I said before, the halls of Dorian Gray's house or something. If I could describe my home in 3 words, it would be moody, magical, and creative.
When people come into our space, they usually walk in like, oh, hey, what's up? And then they'll look to the side and be like, what the? And it's like immediately very impactful and hopefully very transformative. You walk 5 steps in and you're just in another zone completely. I'm Chatham, and this is my handmade home in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, initially when we got this space, I was going for like a 1970s Scarface ultra modern look, which immediately like got got the can. I've realized that I had too much stuff to be even like aspiring to that look. It's just ridiculous. Like this cabinet has some fun junk in it. Practical, sensible brown dress with glasses for day-to-day wear. So in the past, I used to have a boutique called Charm, and it was one of several boutiques that I've owned. I would go to a ton of estate sales, ostensibly to be looking for the shop, but let's face it, like the really good stuff, I would say like, oh, this is great for Charm, and then I would, of course, bring it home and hoard it and add it to the collection of knick-knack, paddywhack that you see before you to this very day. I grew up on Long Island. I collected things on the beach because I was basically a hoarder in training from like day one. They were like treasures. I mean, they felt like mermaid's treasures or something. And I still, if I see a beautiful shell at an estate sale or in an antique mall or something like that, I'll get it. Oh, this guy here is Percy, no big deal. I don't know how Percy went out, but I know he went out a while ago, and I always kind of wanted to pet a fox. He feels really nice. There are so many things about the things that I pick that I respond to. If it's ridiculous, I love that. If it's ghoulish a little, love that. Just out and out dumb, I love that. If it's super unusual, if it's made with very labor-intensive processes, if it's kind of a lost art, anything glittery, anything sparkly, anything kind of talismanic, it just sends me. I mean, I just love it. When I travel, I like to pack like a ridiculously small amount of stuff in a suitcase that fits under the seat, and then I bring empty collapsible bags to carry home. So going there, I'm packing like a ninja, and coming home, I'm like just loaded down with extra bags and carry-ons and having to check suitcases and all that kind of stuff. This guy is, he's an African fetish figure. Mostly from China, found it in Mexico from the flea market in Paris. And I walked around the flea market like 4 times. You never know what you're gonna find. And the idea of being open to it and not only getting a cool souvenir, but getting a beautiful object as well is really exciting to me. So the gallery wall was a giant pain in the ass to hang. It's my favorite DIY project of this place, because if I sit down, every time I look, I notice something else that's sort of thrilling or ridiculous or silly or funny. It's taken probably 6 months to get to this point. It took a long time. Believe it or not, there was actually editing involved. For every single thing that's out, there's probably another thing to match it that's jammed into storage in the basement, or jammed up in a closet, or just jammed up where anything is jammable. And cooking doesn't really happen up in this piece. So this guy is a pretty handy dandy storage spot for stuff that I'll never use, but is extremely fancy. So basically, this is a fancy paperweight and a storage box. I've always been a big fan of books. I didn't collect them for their color. I just happen to have so many books that I eventually could arrange them by color. It's kind of like trying to make a lot of sense out of nonsense. So to create zones within the loft, I just tried to do it through like furniture groupings, and this area that we're sitting in has the rugs, and that kind of zones it out as like kind of a chill out relaxation zone. So I think the only way to like make it look comprehensive is to group like stuff with like, and to limit the palette, because I feel like since I'm not willing to edit my stuff so much, I have to edit something about it. When people are in here, I definitely want them to feel first welcome, second kind of transformed, 23rd. It would be kind of cool if they felt curious. Like, I want them to walk around and look at these things because I enjoy walking around and looking at all these amazing things. And if they want to open cabinets or open drawers or open whatever they want to look at, they can look at. It's all kind of joyful, even if it's not terribly well organized or if it's a messy drawer. It's still fun to look.
The witch, I don't know, had a little too much brew and did a nosedive into the top of the tree. Hey y'all, I'm Jennifer Perkins and welcome to my handmade home in Austin, Texas. There are 3 words that pretty much describe my entire aesthetic, which are colorful, kitschy, and crafty. I am a creative content designer. I am really known for my holiday decor. As you can see, Halloween and Christmas are my jam, but I swear sometimes my house looks normal and there's not a Christmas tree. The house we had lived in previously, I had, painted literally every wall in every room. There was like the red room and the blue room and the yellow room. So when I moved here, I was like, you know what? I just want white walls so I can add color on color on color. So this is the first living area that you see when you first walk into my house. So besides like the obvious Halloween decorations, all of these things are in here year round. My green couch from Craigslist, and then the 2 really colorful chairs. They were my parents in the 70s, but I had them recovered. I have a mirror in the front room that I literally only keep because it like displays all the masks so beautifully. And the gateway drug for me when it comes to Halloween hoarding, and they're not really scary and you can get some with like crazy hair. I mean, what's not to love? They're so tacky. I collect outsider art and tramp art. So this is usually full of, things I don't want my kids getting a hold of, my nicer collectibles. And then here are 2 of those paper mache pumpkins. Back in the olden days, like pumpkins weren't those like plastic ones that we get now, they were paper mache. 3 I have are extra sentimental to me because they were my parents. This one actually has a bird's nest in it. Down here is a collection of, they're called noise makers, like this. You make noise with them. They used to give them out to trick-or-treaters. I personally would be very angry if someone gave one of my children one of these annoying toys. I'm just gonna put that on the record. I have always wanted a vintage aluminum tree, and this is like really my first Halloween to have one. I got them at a flea market. I think it looks pretty awesome. Like, not everything in my house is from the thrift store. Like, it is perfectly fine to have brand new things. So the trick is finding a way to like marry those 2 beautifully. This is the formal living room, as it were. In August, I had this vision of like, I am gonna go pink Halloween. Over here are all these different like vintage cameras. On surface level, like cameras don't scream creepy, but with enough of them in a tree, it's kind of like got a voyeuristic, creepy weirdness to it. You may not know it looking at it, but to me, I know there's like little sentimental touches. This one was my grandma's, like it still has the little K on it. And of course, the tree topper is the Polaroid camera. I love to decorate like the trees differently, but use them as a way to display the vintage Halloween masks. As far as Christmas trees go, I have a lot. At any given time, I could have, like I say, 100 Christmas trees up during the holidays, but they're not all like 9-foot tall trees. Like some of them are like the if we're literally counting all the trees. These are pictures that I found like at the thrift store. I have no idea who these children are. They are not family members. I mean, they are now. Like a skeleton, give that little dude some fangs. Kind of want to always have everything set up a little bit like a seek and find, where it's just like every time you look, it's like, oh, I didn't see that, This is my kitchen, kind of the little breakfast nook. A gauzy spider web and some honeycomb spiders work magic on any light fixture. Down here, I just put out some like Halloween plates. These are just vintage black glassware. I actually had a friend call me and was like, Jennifer, quick, get to this thrift store. There's chairs you need. My kids were like, Mommy, can we please go home? And I was like, no, we can't. I'm so glad I made them suffer. So I got this bar, which I love. I've never served a drink here, but it's a good piece of furniture. It holds all kinds of stuff like Halloween donuts or giant ears. A shadow box. old horror movies on like Super 8, some dental molds. Why wouldn't you collect strange people's teeth? These guys, they're new, and I think they're actually like little luminaries, like you put a light in there because this is paper. But you know, instead this year I put some plants in there and these like glittery like witch hand. Behind me, I have portraits done of my family every year. That's kind of my Mother's Day gift. Rather than like taking my kids to the photo place, doing one of those, I was like, let's get these portraits made. Every year I choose a different artist. Now these are a couple of my favorites. They're done by my sister, Hope Perkins, and she does all kinds of custom portraits of people. I don't know why she decided to make my daughter a flamenco dancer and my son a matador, but I wasn't angry about it. I like it. I love art that if you look at it, you're like, I can't tell if like a child, a crazy person, or a genius did this. Like if I'm like questioning, like, I don't know, one of the three. That's why I love my kids' art. I'm like, oh, it's so good. These are like a favorite, like still in the package. Tooth black, you know, just in case you want to black out your tooth. But I also do, you know, regular non-holiday crafts as well. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, like, what are you doing with that plain giant piece of white furniture in this crazy house? Well, I'll just show you what it does. You open it up. It's like a clown car of craft supplies. And what's behind door number 1? Scrapbook paper and an assortment of rickrack. Paint galore. Don't think for 1 second that this is all my craft supplies, because you know it's not. I do love a pom-pom, because if you mess up on something, you can just glue a pom-pom on it. As good as new. Another thing are these vintage crisper drawers, as in like from a fridge. One person's trash is another person's pom-pom shelf. Kind of like the whole rest of the house. Like I wanted to throw in some like vintage storage, lunch boxes, like old tin lunch boxes, but they also, you know, work great is storage. They made more obnoxious rickrack in pom-pom fringe, like back in the 50s and 60s. And the more obnoxious the craft supply, the better for me. With Halloween, like I never want it to be scary. I always want it to be fun. I always want it to be whimsical. And that's really how I want my house to be all the time. Even to me, sometimes I'll be like, well, I phoned it in. But you know, to anyone else, it's just like, no, you went overkill is what you did. Like my version of overkill is a little different than everybody else's. You are who you are, right? And so it's just like, I can't do it any other way than a way that's gonna match me and my, like, it's always been a lot. Me and the house, like, from the get-go has always been like that.